Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today I wanted to show you guys how to make the perfect cup of chai. It's super simple and straightforward. It's pretty much foolproof once you learn the steps and get it down the first time. It's going to be super easy to remember every time you want to make a cup of chai. I decided to make this video because I tend to get a lot of questions from other people on how to make a good cup of chai, and I think there's this misconception that it's actually really hard, but it's actually super simple. And I do want to preface by saying that different families have different ways of making chai because India is so large. So there's definitely multiple variations. So this is just personally the way my family makes chai, the way my mom makes it, and she learned it from her grandma. So it is definitely authentic, but it's also like a personalized version. And we also tend to make our chai a bit milkier, so we don't use as much water compared to some of my friends, for example. Their families make chai with a little bit more water than milk. But the chai that I make is mostly milk, with just a little bit of water, which I personally think tastes the best that way because I just think milkier, creamier chai tastes better. So yeah, just wanted to preface the video with that there are many variations to chai. This is just personally how I make it, and it's also pretty simple. It's not super complicated or anything. So here are the things you're gonna need. It's super simple. You can get most of them at your local grocery store, or if you have an Indian grocery store near you, you can find things there as well. If not, you can just purchase them online. So the first ingredient you're gonna need is milk. Typically, dairy milk is the most authentic and probably gives you the best original flavor. But if you're like me and you can't have dairy, that's totally okay. I would opt for a full fat oat milk or soy milk, depending on which milk that you prefer. Just do keep in mind that it probably will taste a little bit different from the original way of making chai, which is with dairy milk. Second, you're going to need tea powder, which is black tea powder. So typically, we get ours from our local Indian grocery store. We can use Assam black tea or Darjeeling black tea. Personally, our family uses Assam black tea, and there's different tea brands that you can find in the Indian store. And really just as trial and error because some brands are a little bit stronger than others, but I wouldn't worry too much about that. Just find one that seems good and just go with it, really. And you're also going to need some sugar. It's going to have to be like a granulated sugar. Liquid sweetener would not work at all for chai. So, white sugar is the best and the most classic way to go. If you're a little bit more health conscious, you could try things like sugar substitutes or brown sugar, turbinado sugar, maybe, or even like date sugar. I haven't tried chai with any of those, but I think as long as it's a granulated sugar, it'll still be okay. But if you're especially making this for the first time, I would just go with the classic white table sugar. And then lastly are just some spices. Usually, since we make our chai like every day and sometimes even twice a day, we just make a plain chai without the masala part. But if you want to go for a masala chai, you can put in spices that you can find in the Indian store. You can go for spices that are fresh because those tend to taste better than powdered spices. But if you want, it's totally fine to go for pre-made like powdered spices. Now, the best way to get the flavor is using the whole spices and just smashing them up. So what we usually use is a bit of fresh ginger and cardamom. Those are the only two spices that I regularly put in my chai. And all you have to do is cut up a piece of ginger, smash it, and throw it in your chai while it's boiling. And then same for cardamom. If you're just making a single serving chai, you just need one single cardamom clove. Just mash it and throw it in there, like the shell and all. It's totally fine. I'm sure other people use other spices like clove or maybe cinnamon, but really all you need are ginger and cardamom for this recipe. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it. It's super straightforward and super easy to do. So now let's get into making the chai. So the first thing we're going to do is set our pot on the stove and turn it onto medium-high heat with a little bit of water on the bottom. Not much at all. This is only enough water so it boils the tea powder and the spices and boils it down to get that flavor. Oh, as well as the sugar. So, since this is going to be a recipe for a single serving of chai, you can follow the measurement that I'm using and just multiply them to however many cups of chai you need to make. But for 1 cup of chai, I usually put in 1 spoon of tea powder, around a tablespoon, and then also a tablespoon of sugar. And then I cut up a little bit of ginger and a cardamom piece, smash them really quickly, and just throw them in there. And that's it. Now we're going to wait for it to start to simmer. And then I usually like to get a stronger flavor, so I wait for most of the water to simmer down before I add the milk. But if you don't want too strong of a flavor, you can just wait like 2 to 3 minutes max, and then you should be good to go. Now for the milk, I usually take a cup of about this size, and I'll fill it up 3/4 cups of the way with milk. Then once the tea powder and sugar is simmered to your liking, just go ahead and pour that milk in there. And then now we just wait for it to rise. So this might take a few minutes, you can just chill, but make sure you're watching the stove because you don't want it to overflow all of a sudden, because it does tend to start rising quickly when it does. Okay, so once it starts to rise, you can just pick it up and give it a twirl so it goes back down, or you can lower the heat a little bit, whatever's easier. And then I actually wait for a second rise because I find it gives that best flavor. And so once I get the second rise, I repeat that process, and then I set it back on the stove and lower it to low heat and let it simmer for a few more minutes. I usually wait around maybe 3 to 4 minutes for it to finish simmering. And that's it. You're just going to turn the stove off. Take a tea strainer here because you don't want your powder to fall into the chai, obviously. And yeah, just strain your chai into the cup and you're good to go. So as you can see, that was pretty simple, super straightforward. So now if you want to make it a little bit more fun, you can also have some biscuits on the side. Parle G is a very classic one, or you can also have tea rusk, which you can also find at the Indian store. So what we like to do is just take that tea rusk or biscuit, dip it 1 to 2 seconds in the chai, and then just eat it. So it's soft, but you don't want to dip it in too much that it's so soft that it literally just falls off. Learn that the hard way. Sometimes people will have some savory snacks on the side if other people are invited and you're serving them chai and you want to make it a little bit fancier, but usually tea rusk or biscuit are classic and foolproof. Feel free to also, if you find this too milky to your liking, change the ratio up. So in that cup of milk, you can maybe put less milk and more water and then pour it in. If you like your tea to be a little bit less milky, that's totally fine. Honestly, a chai is very much a personal thing, and you can play around and see what you like best. Same with the tea powder. If you're not used to tea and you want your tea to be a little bit less strong, I would just do like a 3/4 tablespoon of tea powder instead of 1 tablespoon. And then also with the sugar, if you want your chai to be sweeter, you can always add more sugar after the chai is made. Just throw in a bit more sugar and mix it up with a spoon. It's not an end all be all. If things seem a little bit off after you've made it and not to your liking, you can always fix it afterward. So yeah, that is how you make a classic traditional cup of chai. No more Starbucks chai or any of that Americanized version of chai that you find in the store. If you like it, totally cool. That's great and all, but if you want a traditional cup of chai, this is the way to go. It's super easy, super straightforward, and you can make this literally every day. You will be so addicted. So yeah, I hope you like this video. Now I'm going to go enjoy my cup of chai before it gets cold, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye!